Hey, what's up, guys? So I wanted to do a quick lessons learned this week video. I would like to do this on a regular basis. I thought that would be really cool because I am constantly learning. You know how it is. You think you know something, and every single deal that I come across, I learn something new. So I just thought I'd start sharing. My loan officer friends, especially, pay attention to this because this is some good stuff. You know, I do a lot of VA deals, and I'm telling you, man, the VA guidelines changed recently, and they just published it. And I went and printed off the new guidelines. So I've got some reading to do, mainly Chapter 4. This is printed front and back, Chapter 4. It's pretty thick. There's I don't know how many pages it is, but it's a lot. So I'm going to be reading over that here in the near future. But one of the new guideline changes to VA that I learned is if the client owns an investment property, they had to have had it rented out for 2 years for you to be able to use that as effective income. So I have to have 2 years of tax returns showing that property has been rented out. We have to average it over the last 2 years. That's a change. So before, if they had a property rented out, I could just go off of a 12-month lease. The catch is if it's a primary conversion, if they're converting their primary house to a rental property, all I need is a copy of the lease. That's it. However, if it's a property that they've had rented out in the past, they have to have a 2-year history. I can't count it. So what if you've only rented that property out for 1 year? Can't count it as income. That can be a deal killer for a lot of people on VA loans. Number two lesson that I learned this week, FHA just rolled out with a spot approval for condos. I didn't know that. So if it's an FHA condo, you are allowed to get a spot approval if it's not on the FHA approved condo list. That's cool. Number three, I didn't know this either. I'm kind of ashamed to say it. My loan officer friends may say, well, duh, I knew that. But part-time income, I thought you had to have a 2-year history of earning part-time income for me to be able to count it. If it's your only job, you don't need a 2-year history. I'm just going to take a raw average of what you made year to date for your part-time employment, maybe even bring in some of last year to average it out as well. But part-time income, you do not have to have a 2-year history. Only time you need a 2-year history is if you're using two jobs. If I'm trying to use two jobs, one of them's a full-time job, one of them's a part-time, you have to have a 2-year history of working two jobs. Number four that I learned this week, dual entitlement for veterans. So if you have a husband and a wife that both served in the military, you can use, they both have their own separate entitlement. So let's say you have a dual military couple that buys a house, you put the eligibility, you tie one of the veterans' eligibility, you don't tie up both of them. So then the other veteran, the spouse, can go get their own VA loan, or they could buy their second house and use the other spouse's VA entitlement. So it's all about the VA entitlement. It's best to put the VA entitlement on one person if they're a dual married couple. That way they can go use the VA benefits to buy a second house if needed. I thought that was pretty cool. How about that? Number five, I learned a lot this week, man. This has been a good week. If it's a second dwelling, so I ran across a property that they took the garage and they converted it into an in-law suite or a music studio or whatever. So if that's the case, if it can possibly be used as a second dwelling, more than likely the appraiser is going to mention that, and it will not be able to go conventional conforming type financing. It'll have to be a bank loan. So our bank can do the loan. Problem is they're going to have 20% down, and they're looking at 6-year balloon type, 30-year amortized terms. Interest rate will be a little bit different as well. So if there's two dwellings on the property, it will not go conventional. Didn't realize that. I thought they could under certain circumstances. Let's talk through that real quick. If it's a detached garage and they finish it out and it's just one big blank room, you might be fine. Or if it's a studio, a music studio, or a workshop, you might be fine. But if it's got a kitchen and a bathroom and bedrooms in it, you can forget it. That could potentially be considered a second dwelling. So hopefully you guys learned something too. And I'll try to do this maybe every week, see how my weeks go. Thanks.